We have some more people coming, Diana? We're quiet out there. We want to really honor people's time. First of all, welcome. We're glad to see you here this evening. My name is Brian Giese. I'm the president of the Nekoosa School Board. I hope that you all got a chance to sign in when you came in. If not, please, did anybody not get a chance to sign in? Okay.
We'll get you.
We'll pass that around, good. We have some handouts that we gave to you. Before we get going into that, I'd like to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves and just tell us what your connection to the school district is. Brian Giese, School Board President.
Hey Schmidt, I'm the School Board Treasurer.
Pat Rashevsky, I'm the School Board Clerk.
Brian Mahan. Cody Przybylski, Vice President.
Us too.
Oh, yeah.
Carrie Prokop, Chair of Wise Academy.
Thank you.
Sean Melke, I've got a student here, it's high school.
Dayton Kauf, a taxpayer.
Brenda Almquist, taxpayer.
Jill Reese, I'm from the town of Rome, and I have 2 high school kids.
Jody O'Donnell, I am an employee, and all 3 of my kids go to school here. So.
Courtney Berg, same. I'm a kindergarten teacher here at Humpkey, and one of my kids goes to school here.
Liz Arceo, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and both of my children graduated from Nekoosa.
Kristen Sprain, I'm a kindergarten teacher here and had 3 daughters graduate from her.
Ashley Reimer, also a parent with children in the district.
Beth Thomas, I have kids in the district.
Nita Kirst, a retired teacher of the district and grandparent to children of the district.
I'm Tom Kirst. We have 2 grandchildren in the school district.
Thank you.
Amy and Casey Funo, we have 1 daughter that graduated from here and 1 in high school, and also on the STEM council.
Thank you.
Gary Dorn, taxpayer.
Carol Dorn.
Yeah, I think we all.
And volunteer. As well.
Yeah, taxpayer, children and great-grandchildren in school here.
Becky Gersmel, parent and student in the district.
Bob Karbolski, taxpayer.
Support team, Lexi Karbowski.
Corey Dine, parent and student.
Jason Dine.
Thank you, Jason. We can't forget the guy in the back row here. Keith.
Keith Johnson, high school principal and parent.
Brian Grill, Director of Student Services for the district.
Lynn Knight, business manager for the district.
Sean Woods, parent.
Katie Goodman, parent.
Mark Tuttle, football and baseball coach, alumni, and had 2 kids go through the school system here.
Andy and Ann Hugestegger were parents.
Greg Gersmel, student.
Andrew Berg, parent.
Bob Shear, old retired guy.
Randy Soika, parent.
Robin Geller, parent.
Thank you again for all being here. And
Oh, we got a couple up here.
we forgot this. Oh,
Rick
yeah.
Hansen, taxpayer, Rome.
John Joslin, alumnus of Nekoosa High School, former employee, teacher in the district, had a student graduate from here, taxpayer.
For all those brave enough to sit in the front row, I owe y'all. So,
And we had friends just come back in, or come in.
Tara Phelps, I'm parent.
thank you all for being here. In the handouts tonight, we have a couple different things. One, group norms, meeting rules for tonight. Gotta find it in my notes.
Here.
Thank you. We want to begin and end on time. We'd like to try to finish, we're going to try to have maybe a 10 to 15 minute presentation and then finish off with some questions and answers, feedback on what we presented. We will stick around after that time period to answer any questions for those that may not get answered. We want to use iMessages. We want to be open, honest, and direct. We want to assume positive intent. No excuses. We all have expertise. When an individual shares an idea, we agree to support their idea Terry, you wrote too much on here. No. With 4 positives before we offer a negative. I like that one.
Yep, like
I'm gonna
it.
go with 1 positive. No, we are responsible for our own learning. We want to be respectful of differences. We all have different ideas and different opinions. We want to be able to respect each other's vision and what they have. Be respectful of others' sharing. Confidentiality. It's okay to stop the process and confer. No phones. I'm going to turn mine off after I'm done here. I better turn it off right now. Red flag rule, elephant rule. Anybody not know what that means? Mr. Shear, go ahead and tell them what the elephant rule is.
So if there's something that we need to talk about, let's talk about it. So be brave enough, so throw the red flag and say, hey, there's an elephant in the room we need to talk about.
Thank you, Terry. I just got a
I'm Terry Whitmore, by the way, District Administrator. I didn't introduce myself.
Can't forget.
We're glad you're here.
As I was turning my phone off, I got a message that some people might be coming a little late, so we'll welcome that. This is serious work, but it can also be fun. We're at the start of a serious project, but we wanna try to keep everything in the correct perspective. We want to be positive tonight. If we get in on the wrong tangent, or going, there may be some things that we can't talk about in a group format. It's more appropriate for a one-on-one or questions that we can dig into deeper. And I reserve that right, if something starts, going down that road, I reserve that right to say, hey, we just need to back up and talk about this one-on-one or in a different format. So please appreciate that. There's other handouts in here that are going to be covered. This is information that we're going to be referencing in our presentation. One is the first one that I'm going to talk about is the one that has a picture of the athletic thing on the back and give us an update. Most of these topics we're going to be covering in our presentation. This is yours to take home. And then we also provided you with a copy of our district strategic plan. This is a plan that guides our work as a team and as a district. We hold on to these values and try to support them and try to achieve them. And these all of this ties together with the presentation that we're going to be talking about tonight. So please, that's going to be good information for you. Any questions so far? You're all pretty happy. It's getting hot in here, isn't it? I like that. Okay. We're going to get into our presentation at this point. Kind of see that up there, planning for a sustainable future. Terry?
All right. So we're going to just talk a little bit on the front end about the things that are happening in the district currently. So we gave you a copy of our strategic plan. This is brand new this year. So for the last 4 or 5 years, we've, as a district on the front page, we've really been focusing in on these 3 areas, spending a lot of time and energy. Our staff has been working incredibly hard on high leverage instructional strategies, and that is really helping our kids focus in on the math, literacy, and science. So we've really spent a lot of time and energy, and hopefully those of you that have kids in the school, you're seeing that. So a lot around building classrooms and practices that meet the diverse needs that are coming into our schools, right? And then the social emotional learning piece, that is, we're really trying to be more cohesive as a district to support the social emotional needs that are coming to the schools that might be different than when we were in school. So the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school are really aligned in a lot of the practices so that there's some commonalities between the 3 schools. So lots of work on that, and certainly everybody's hearing in the news about the trauma that some of our kids are going through today. So we're spending a lot of time and energy on that. And then equity, we're one of the pieces that with that diversity that come to the kids that are coming to us each day bring many different backgrounds. So the equity piece is really getting our teachers to be working together to serve those kids. And certainly as you look at the strategic plan, you'll notice each school the emphasis that each school has put on in each of these areas. So lots of things happening, and it's really required a lot on our professional staff to learn some of these new practices, right? And so we're working extremely hard to get them what they need, and then also giving them the supports that they need at the same time. So and we're gonna be talking about some needs in that area down the road, but please know, I mean, and some exciting things. This year, the district is exceeding, or last year, on last year's data, the district's exceeding expectations. So some really good things. The staff is working really hard for the kids in the community. So on the front end, it's really important to know that we've got a roadmap. The strategic plan is a plan that all of us are working on together as a community and school system to really provide everything we can for our kids. So any questions on the strategic plan or anything our staff wants to add? Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
Yes.
And, you know, a great deal of work. Terry brought that into a very succinct package. The amount of work that has been done on that end is just it's almost impossible to fathom. Challenges facing our district. Our district is facing increasing financial difficulties, which have limited the district's ability to provide the educational services and athletic infrastructure necessary to meet the needs within the district. We've been losing money since I started on the board, roughly $2.3 million a year. Lynn, is that?
Lynn's going to be talking about that.
Lynn will talk about that. But we've tightened the belt as far as we can tighten it. We've lost positions. We're going to go over some of that later on. We've cut areas where we have needs, not only, you know, in the educational, but also with regards to the athletic facilities. In the 9 years I've been here, I'm sad to say I don't think we've spent a single dollar on the track, and that hurts me. Things that we as a district, you know, we I think have the responsibility to provide the resources to those children that partake of those services. And again, it balances with the athletics and with the academics. The future, what does it look like for us? Over 80% of the school districts in the state of Wisconsin have gone to referendum in some shape or form. Lynn's expertise and administration and the school board have gotten us this far. We'd be struggling to make it any further. We're going to be talking about more of the opportunities for improvements a little bit further, but you know, the challenges are the financial. When we're making decisions on what we can offer children based on money, that's not the right way to do it. We should be offering services based upon what the students' needs are. When I talk about students, I also need to talk about faculty. We need to talk about payroll. We need to talk about retaining quality teachers, ensuring the teachers have the resources they need to do their jobs. If our teachers don't have the resources to do their jobs, and if we're losing our teachers to other districts, we need to do as much as we can as a board and as a district to retain these teachers. And there's active work going on, and it's going to continue, but a lot of it hinges on where we go with regards to these items we're going to be talking about later on.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You said 80% of the schools have gone after referendums. In what time frame?
You know, it's since the enactment of Act 10.
Oh, okay.
So since 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the other things that the district has done, remember, enrollment has been going down since the decline of the paper industry, right? So the district has been working really hard to really bunch up our teaching staff and our support staff to serve the kids that we have. The way the funding formula, and Lynn will talk a little bit about this, what happens is we don't necessarily have $10,000 less cost the minute a student leaves. and the way the funding formula works, it's a bit complicated. But we certainly know that you as taxpayers, as we have less kids, we have to work with less dollars. But there's a lot of pieces that fit into that, so it's really important that you understand that the district has been working hard to reduce costs. So we've reduced 5 teaching positions. We reduced central office administrator curriculum. We've looked at healthcare insurance costs, post-employment benefits for our retirees. We've looked at bus routes, and we've tried to put bus routes together and reduce bus routes. We've spent little to no money on athletic infrastructure. We did a year ago move to a contracted nutrition program, food service, for savings. We've maintained status quo budget for facilities and maintenance, which over time, as you know, roofs need to be replaced, boilers need to be replaced, that type of thing. We've aligned resources to meet student needs. So we really are we're focusing all our dollars and all of our energies on the strategic plan. So we're really trying to look differently at how we can meet those needs within the schools. And certainly each of the principals and the building staffs are really working hard to make that happen. The other exciting piece is that we've increased open enrollment into the district. And a couple of the strategies that the district's used since I've been here in 8 years is we opened up CWSA, which is Central Wisconsin STEM Academy. So it's another option for kids that really focuses around STEM, and we have one of our STEM students here tonight. But the intent was to offer our kids choice, and then also perhaps get kids coming in from other communities. And I think we do have a couple of students that are from other communities, don't we, that have open enrolled in. And then a couple years ago, we started WISE, which is our virtual program in the district. And so I think we started with 7 kids, and that's grown this year. We have 148 kids that we're servicing from around the whole state of Wisconsin. And that's what Carrie was talking about earlier. She sits on the council for that. Do we have any, CWSA has a council too? But just know that the district's trying to generate some additional revenues by reaching out and doing things different and really focusing in on, what is it that our communities are looking for.
It is a huge statement to say that we have more students opting in than opting out. That's something that reversed in the last 3 years, and that's very important. It's sad to say, but we're actually competing for kids. There's children and parents from our district that, some will make choices to go to, a different school, Fort Rapids, for varying reasons. There's children that choose to come to our district from those schools. And, what we have to offer for services for the teaching environment, for our athletics, these are things that we're directly competing for. And if it wasn't for all the work done in really trying to make us competitive, the WISE Academy and CWSA, the amount of work that's been done in those areas have really offset some of the losses we've had in the traditional brick and mortar. You all see those commercials on TV about homeschooling and things of that nature. We are in direct competition with some of those groups, and we're able to tap into that for those parents that want to pursue that option. We can take advantage of that, and those students that work with us have a better opportunity, don't they?
Of course.
They have the opportunity to be able to experience many different things. I'm getting off topic.
So if you have questions about either CWSA or WISE, because a lot of times people are, what's this whole virtual thing? Or what's a STEM Academy? Certainly hang out and we can answer those questions. But we also have used fund balance to balance the budget, and Lynn will probably touch on that. So Lynn, if you'd come up and tell us what financial figures have gotten us into this situation.
So to state this, not make it easy for anybody to understand the state funding formula for schools districts. So I would need at least probably about 16 hours to fully explain it. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the financial factors affecting our situation. I really want to focus on the revenue limit, because a lot of folks don't understand what the revenue limit even means. There's also enrollment, which is declining, which actually plays into the revenue limit. It's one of the main factors that plays into the revenue limit. We have increasing costs and we have emerging student needs, which Mr. Giese has touched on. Where's my flipper?
Oh. I wanted the full effect.
So what is the revenue limit? The state has imposed revenue limits for school districts. They basically said you are only allowed to raise so much revenue in property taxes and state aid. Those are our two main buckets of revenue for our school district. So if our state aid goes up, in order to equalize to keep the revenue limit, our property taxes go down. But if our state aid goes down, our property taxes go up. Because there's only this amount that we can receive, and we cannot exceed the revenue limit without voter approval, which is what we're talking to you about tonight. So our district receives two main sources. So how much right now comes from state aid? 20%. 80% comes from Joe taxpayer in order to fund our school districts. There are a lot of things that play into that formula. The main one is property value. According to the state, we are so rich, that we have to give some of our state aid to other districts that are poor. That's just how the funding formula works. Now, there are two sides to every story. So we have folks over here that have high property value. Even though we are economically challenged in this area, the state doesn't care. They don't play that into this formula. They look at property value. So if they see our property value very rich, well, you don't need as much. But over here, let's say there's a school district that has poor property value, but maybe their economic factors are maybe free and reduced is 10%. The state still says that district is poor, we have to give them more money. It's broken. Now there are taxpayers or legislators over here on this side of the aisle that say, no, the formula works perfect. Our legislators are saying, no, it does not work for our districts. So they're constantly fighting the political battle, and you get nowhere. So in the past 10 years, we've had a revenue limit of how much we can raise in property taxes and state aid. That has slowly declined by over $1 million in the past 10 years. So 10 years ago, we had $1 million more that we could raise in state aid and property taxes. Today, we have $1 million less. So that means less revenue. Our state aid has decreased approximately $2.3 million. So what happens to property taxes if the state aid goes down? You guys pick it up. So our formula is broken. We have districts over here fighting to keep it the way it is. We have districts over here fighting to change it, and nothing happens. So we are forced to go to Joe taxpayer and say we need help.
Thank you, Lynn.
Sure.
Why did we lose that $1 million for the last 10 years? Why did that drop?
Our property values have increased. So the state, because our property values have increased, the state says you are richer. You don't need as much money as you think you do. There are three basic variables that play into this formula. Property values, enrollment, which is declining, and then state aid. So if our enrollment is declining, the state is saying you don't need as much revenue then. So there are so many variables that play into this, and it's complicated. And but the two main things that I can see right now: declining enrollment, high property value.
What is our negative? What's our number? How much have we lost in the past 10 years of our enrollment? Like how far we went down?
Well, let me think. Now, don't quote my numbers.
No, that's fine.
But in the ballpark, I know when I first came here 11 years ago, we were probably maybe. Bob, do you remember? You were here. Bob Shear.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this meeting.
I'm thinking maybe 1,400
I was going to say 1,300.
Yeah.
It was 1,250 when I came 8 years ago.
And now we're, because of the virtual enrollment, we're about 1,150 right now. Yeah.
Okay, so like if you live in the Nekoosa school district and you're a property owner and then you would pay more taxes, What about all the students you talked about that they live in Rapids or Port Edwards and they come here to school, but they're not property owners in Nekoosa, they're property owners in Rapids or Port. Are they affected by the cost increase?
No, they're not. This is only for residents of the Nekoosa School District. But, I mean, just don't feel too bad because we always bill those guys. If those kids come here, we make sure we get the money from them. So.
Good question. Mr. Shear?
Historical perspective. About 20 years ago, I used to work up in the school district of Phelps in northern Wisconsin. And you're now seeing what we ran into and we had to deal with for 10 years. We had the higher property values because everybody had a lakefront house, we had boats, we had big houses, we had wealthy people coming there from other states on a summertime basis, driving our property values up. And then we had families who were on basically a lower income jobs like most of us here are. And then we had the small enrollments in the school. And I was part of a group that was trying to say, stop looking at the property value, look at the actual cost of educating the student. Look at the budget of the school and adjust the taxes and financial aid at that time. And they blew us off.
So you were fighting that 20 years ago.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it's still fighting. Yeah.
So what you're hearing here is history, but it's trickling down from the north and coming down here.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's got the same problem. They've got finance problems based upon property values, based upon state aid that's not that
Okay,
great.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because Milwaukee has too many special rules.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's a
thank
good
you,
point.
Bob.
That's a very good point. And thank you,
Yep.
Lynn. Lynn is
There might be
raising a
more
very-
questions for Lynn.
Lynn's raising a very valid goal, so
Yeah.
I very much appreciate you making it tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Terry, I'd like
Yeah,
to talk to you a little bit.
so you've heard now kind of where we're going with the vision. You've heard about the financial challenges. And here are some needs that we've uncovered. And our staff is working extremely hard to meet the needs that are coming to us. And the needs are coming that are more difficult, right? For whatever reason. So we want to continue to maintain and improve our current program and services. We need to add student services staff to help struggling students' families. We need to add a teacher. We're really looking at career pathways and what our community needs as far as the manufacturing industry. We know that our kids come back and tell us they want more of that here. Computer science is something we don't offer, and that is something that kids are demanding for their career pathways. So and our tech ed shop is vintage, like from the 70s. It really needs work.
It's the same one we had, John.
Yeah. We also know, and this is really important for us, because you guys have told us this. We know that we've got kids that are coming to us, and they're bright kids, and they need to be challenged to fulfill their potential. But we also have some kids on the other end that are struggling, and maybe we're not, meeting their needs the way we should or could. So we know that we've got to provide those kids some intervention help, right? We also know, and the high school is doing a great job up there of offering advanced placement classes. That we're working with Midstate and the colleges to offer those courses at the high school. So we're really trying to make sure that we balance things out and get all kids what they need. And this is, and our elementary teachers are here, they know they're working extremely hard to meet needs, and this would be at Humke. And then we also we want to continue to bring kids in from other places. And WISE right now we're operating with one teacher and then some adjunct teachers that support and help the school. But we know we need help there too, in order to continue to bring money into the district. So those are the needs, and it's not, we don't think elaborate, but we definitely have these needs if we're going to continue to be successful as a school district.
And these needs are really consistent with our strategic plan and supporting the students and that need that assistance and getting them caught up. We can't have kids that aren't at grade level. We can't have kids that are just getting by. We got to get that intervention in there. We also got to challenge those students that are gifted. There's a number of parents in here that have gifted children that have challenged us and that we appreciate. And those students deserve every bit of challenge that they can as well. Our athletic facility needs. At this time, safety, the track is unusable. Many in this room know more about what's going on out there on our athletic surfaces than I do. We do have a video that on the website that links into all of the things that were identified. Roughly 3 years ago, a group was formed. Darren Olson headed it. A group of citizens came, and it was a combination effort between the school and this athletic association. And they actually formed, well, we had a cooperative relationship. We had a study done by a group called Rutler Incorporated. They're a local company out of Stevens Point.
Right.
They've done a lot of work in the area. Some of you may be familiar with them. This committee did a lot of work. However, we got to the point where it's the money, and that's, you know, what do we consider important within our district? What priorities do we put on our facilities? The maintenance, upkeep improvements, the softball fields. Our softball fields, I'm not afraid to say, but there's still some dugouts that were constructed by my grandfather back when my sister was playing. One dugout was knocked over and it was reconstructed by Mr. Bob Shear and group. But
Yes, thank you, Bob.
But some of those my grandfather put together on spare time on the weekends, and they're kind of falling apart. And it's kind of embarrassing sometimes. You know, I hate to say that, but when other teams come in, to host a WIA event this year, we had to rent or buy a fence to get a legal outfield. I want to congratulate the Athletic Association and the school. They did put up a new fence, but there's many other improvements that need to be made in that area. The football field. That football field's been there since I went to school and probably since my grandfather went to school here. That's a dual-use field. There's issues. Mr. Tuttle, Coach Tuttle, you could probably talk on that for a long time, as well as other coaches out here. We also have a proposed road here between the middle and high school. Right now, our buses have to go out to the highway to come around. That's a safety issue. We have an issue with egress into that high school parking lot during events. Who's been here at band nights or music nights when you can't even get out of the parking lot, or even find a parking spot? There's needs out there. And I don't think, does anybody have any questions about the needs? We're going to talk about those probably more in depth a little further. Go ahead.
So if we're going to do this big, supposedly big athletic field, how are we paying for the upkeep of it? If we can't upkeep the track and we can't upkeep what we have now, how are we going to pay for that upkeep?
That's a very good point. Very good point, and that's something that was part of this whole conversation, is the upkeep. There's an opportunity out there, it's called Fund 46, am I correct, Glenn?
Yes.
And Fund 46 it allows us to deposit monies in there for capital improvements, be it roof or be it track. It's not a fund that we've utilized greatly. I think we put funds in there 5 years ago, Lynn, was it 3 years ago?
Yep, 5.
And that was, Lynn had some insight in doing that, because you have to have the money in there for a certain time period before you're allowed to spend it. And we actually have budgeted monies going into that are currently in the budget. Am I correct, Lynn?
Not this year.
What's that?
Not this year.
Not this year, because we're tight. We did have audited. We had some extra monies at the audited July, and we did put that in the Fund 46. But we are committed as a board to put monies into that and be able to work with that. There are some maintenance issues that will in fact go down. if we have the adequate facilities.
Lynn's burning up back there.
It's hot here, that's why. And the reason, okay, so everybody's like saying, well, so what? You put it in Fund 46. Well, it's a game. So we have to put it into Fund 46 in order to get more money from the state. So we have to play this game, but you can only use Fund 46 for certain things. So.
But to your point, we are going to have, they're probably, we're going to have to add a staff member to take care of some of the maintenance.
And where are you getting more
Depending
money?
upon what the community decides and supports and what the board decides.
So is that included in
Well,
this?
we're going to have to make sure it's included.
Yes. Yeah, one more.
My question would be, is our district proactive enough to keep on top of this stuff? You mentioned our dugouts, our JV field dugouts have been there, they're borderline unsafe, and that happened way before this. Same thing with our softball field. Mr. Kurz can probably tell me this, but I believe our baseball backstop net is still up at the baseball field.
No.
Yes, it is.
So are we proactive enough to handle a project like this? You know, without, there's different clubs throughout the community that support Nekoosa athletics. You didn't mention any when you said anything about the net, but, or the fence surrounding the base, or the softball field, but there's a lot of money that comes in that a lot of people don't know about.
Absolutely.
So
There is.
are we proactive enough to handle a project this big?
Well, and part of that is having somebody dedicated to taking care of that, making sure that the football equipment's put away, the baseball equipment, so.
It's a 2-hour project.
Yeah, and one of the other things too that, and this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but if we were, track used to be one of the highest money-making concessions, and we haven't been able to host a track event for years. But that always, the athletic association always got more money from those concessions and those activities than anything else. And we'd have the ability to host those type of events, so there's a lot more opportunity for gate sales. And we met with the athletic association 2 weeks ago, and they are very committed to supporting this. And we as a district, it has to do with priorities, you're right. And I think
I'm not saying I'm in support one way or another.
we kind of let it slip, I think.
Are we forward thinking enough to look down the road 20 years and not have this meeting again?
Blow it up. I understand.
Or 15 for that matter.
Yep. We're planning on that. That's something that's part of this process. And thank you for that question. That's something that we're going to have to talk a lot more about. And that's one thing that I want to get back. What we're talking about tonight, we got to talk about timing. We're asking for this survey that went out. We're asking for our constituents, the people that pay the taxes. We're asking for their feedback on what they feel that we can support as a district. And we have to ask 2 questions. Can't ask just one. There's got to be 2 questions. One is an operational. Operational referendums would be for the support of the school, and it'd be for 5 years, a period of 5 years, non-recurring, correct, Lynn?
Correct.
The way it would be worded. And the capital project is a separate question, and again, would be posed if we're going to get this feedback from this survey. We should have the feedback first week of December. We as a board will review it in the workshop. We have to take an action on that in December by state statutes in that time period in order to get something on the ballot for April. And so we're going to be gauging what our public would support. And we certainly as a board are not going to make a recommendation that we don't think our people are going to be supportive of. And that's why we're looking for your feedback in both of those areas, the operational and the capital. And I look at those 2 things the same. They both have to do with offering our students a quality experience in their high school career. Operational goes into the instructional programming, teacher resources, teacher salaries. And I was really surprised. We were asked a question about how many of our students participate in the outdoor athletics. And it was
All athletics.
All athletics. And it was nearly 50%. I was thinking it might be like 20%. It was nearly 50%. And we could quote numbers about people, students that are involved in extracurriculars are more successful in college, they're more successful in post-high school careers. But good point, thank you, and I appreciate that. I want you to, don't let us forget that, right? Well, Lynn, you're getting everybody's name, right?
Huh?
Excuse me, Diana, you're getting everybody's name down, right? Mr. Mike Brodswitz, I can't wait.
So I am on the school athletic, or youth athletic board, and I will say that is a huge struggle for our youth athletics not having a track. It's probably our highest enrollment sport. There's a lot of sad faces on kids when they hear they can't host a home meet. If nothing else comes out of this, I hope we get a track back in Nekoosa, because it's one of our strongest sports from little kids all the way through. And the reality is, I've moved enough dirt in my life building cranberry marshes and everything else. If you're gonna do the groundwork to build a track and you don't put a soccer and a football field in the middle of it, you're a fool. You're already paying for the equipment, you're paying for the fuel, you're paying for the expenses, it's done.
That's a good point. That's a good point. When we presented the numbers on this, we presented them kind of in a piecemeal, number by number. But people need to understand that if every time you have to bring that equipment back, it's going to cost more money. If we're able to do things in one shop, like you say, if we got the equipment here, we can get it done cheaper. Mr. Scheer.
I just want to agree with that gentleman there, but he's right on track. I ran on that track and when it was asphalt, and I was a high school track coach up in northern Wisconsin. I coached Special Olympics track. Track is one sport that everybody can participate in and build up their confidence and build up their athletic ability. The thing that I remember, and I took away from track when I was running on it, is whoever built the track did not put a good base under it. If you were to pull the asphalt up, I would bet some of that is compressed dirt, not much else. Your new track has to be built to a higher spec. Plus, it has to have drainage. It cannot drain to the track. It's got to drain somewhere else away from the track. Otherwise, whatever you're putting into it is going to disintegrate. And then tell the people, do not drive on.
We won't have pickup trucks. We won't have pickup trucks on there plowing it.
Mr. Geezy was saying that the track is not usable. There are spots in the track. There's a kind of a final surface over the top of the blacktop, but there's places there where you can grab that and lift it right up, and that's not good for running on for kids. They're going to fall and hurt themselves. We can't use it for track events because it's so dangerous to the kids.
Could be liable.
There's not even a complete lane that doesn't have holes in it.
No.
The capital referendum that we're talking about, we're going to be talking about some numbers here. The operational referendum, to get $2 million a year, it would be $4 per year on the school district, on $4 per year per $100,000 of property value, for a $2 million per year operational referendum. Estimated. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn's working, but it's very close. Lynn, when she makes estimates, is pretty darn good.
And again, that's for 5 years, correct?
Operational would be $2 million per year for a period of 5 years, yes, and non-recurring, non-renewing. And people have asked the question, that $4 compared to the, and it's $27 if we did the whole project for the athletic facilities. It'd be $27 per 100,000. And people try to compare numbers, and if we only did the $3 million, it'd be $10 a year, 1.8. Why was it more money for the capital? The capital referendum is funded differently. We actually obtained bonds for the borrowing for those funds, and that's based on these numbers are based on a 10-year payback, not a 20-year payback, 10-year payback. One thing that Terry touched on earlier was the fund balance. Lynn touched on the fund balance. We've dipped into our fund balance to pay for costs over the last several years. This is not something that we as a district want to do. What is the fund balance there for? Lynn could answer this question better than I. If I make a mistake, please holler. Our funding sources come at different times of the year. And we at different times of the year have to go out and borrow money to pay payroll. We have to go out and borrow money to pay for resources and bills the school has. Am I correct, Lynn? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, can I just interject?
Yes,
Okay.
you're better at it.
Okay, so fund balance, and I'm gonna say this really clear, is not a savings account. We don't have like $4 million sitting in a savings account someplace. So what it is, it's all of our assets minus all of our liabilities equals fund balance, and one date in time, which is June 30th, 2019, 20, whatever. So it's basically used for our audit report. So the higher our fund balance is, the cash flow is easier throughout the year. So if we have a $4 million fund balance, that means that we don't have to borrow short term throughout the year to make operating expenses. If we have a lower fund balance, that means cash flow is really, really tight. And that means that we have to borrow short term more money and pay more interest in short term borrowing to meet our expenses throughout the year.
And that's the situation we're in right now, and essentially we're borrowing and paying interest on that money. What is it, when you're paying interest in your credit cards, does that sound financial planning? No. You're better off to have that balance paid for. Yes, question?
I guess it'd be more of like a line of credit if you were using it against it and then you have an interest.
Yeah.
Is that paid off at the end of the year when those funds come available, or
It has to.
are there still those funds that are sitting out there that are unpaid?
No, we have to pay it off every single year, within an 11-month period, state statute.
I appreciate that question, Cortland. Very good question. I didn't even think of that question. So, we have a lot out there. Yeah. Yes, Mr.
1.8 million is for the track.
That's just for the track foundation, yeah.
3.0 million is for the track, and what he's prescribing is the internal fields inside the track?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, we kind of look at the 1.8 plus the 1.4. It's kind of down here. You want to go to that?
There it is.
Yeah. And again, we might find savings in this if we do it all at once because of not bringing that equipment back in. But yeah, the math is really hard to figure out. It doesn't, you can't compare it to the operational referendum.
I'm trying to figure it out, if I add those two numbers, I'm not getting 3.0.
I think what we did is we incorporated the savings of having the equipment on site. If we did both of them at once.
Okay.
The guy.
So 3 million does deliver that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. And you know, these are estimates. I want to reinforce that. But it does give us a good, I mean, these are firm numbers and it gives us a good idea and will help you as taxpayers make a decision as to what we can afford.
So we're at 10-2, so.
I took a lot more time.
And I went through this slide. Anybody have any comments on this?
I just have one question. On the athletic, and when this was first introduced, they had talked about fundraising. Was there any funds
Oh my
raised?
gosh.
I've been waiting for that question. Terry, go ahead.
So the group that met 3 years ago, we had moved along. We have a list of funders. We've got people that certainly want to come alongside the district and support whatever it is that the district does. But at the time when we were meeting, we knew, I mean, the board had started having some conversations about, hey, we've got to be thinking ahead. And so had we gone out and fundraised before this, we would have been out front and saying, hey, we need. And now all of a sudden, now we're coming around and we're talking about needs to the community as a whole. So this group, we're going to get them moving again because we do have some people that want to come alongside and support the district in these efforts. So it is, and this was the Athletic Association with Darren Olson. So we're gonna start that back up again. We really wanted to be transparent. We didn't want anybody thinking, oh, I gave $1 million and now all of a sudden you're coming back and doing you know, you're coming to the community.
And that's one thing too, that, you know, if this does pass for, say, the 5.1 million and somebody gives us $3 million, we're not gonna take that, we're not gonna complete the fund, you know, take that over time. We'll use, you know, we're gonna use any kind of, what do you call it?
Donations?
Donations, fundraising, to offset and plan for some of those costs that you talked about. We can put that into Fund 46. Of course, anybody that donates money, they get a contract that states what their money is going to be used for. It may be signage, it may be naming rights, it may be different things. And it maybe is going to go into that Fund 46 for operational expenses down the road. So that's a very good point. I'd like to give my board members an opportunity.
Does that include grants? Have you applied for grants for stuff like this? Are you anticipating that type of thing?
Absolutely. And we did make a couple of applications in the beginning. Yeah. Not in the beginning, but within the last, I think we wrote one for Legacy. Yeah. And so they gave us some feedback, so we'll continue to look at grants. It's hard, grant dollars for athletic facilities.
And one thing we rely upon too is the advocacy of our coaches. The coaches a lot of times go out and seek some of this, you know, the athletic associations and the coaches do a lot of fundraising. Yes?
Lynn, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
The fundraiser group, what would it take to get them labeled as a nonprofit so people can actually do a tax write-off on the donations they make to that group for the sports field?
Well, they would probably have to apply for a 501c3. It'd be easier just to donate to the district if it's a district group, because we're already a tax exempt entity, and their donations would be non-taxable.
Yeah, we've already driven up draft forms to allow for that, and we would provide them with
And then they with the tax credit
correct.
when it comes tax time.
Correct. We provide.
I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, we provide them a notice of that tax deduction, and they'd be able to get that. So, I'd like, any other questions? Yes?
I might have missed it, trying to catch up with the plan, but what happens to the old football and baseball field back here?
Well, if indeed that football field is moved, that would be a baseball field. Right now it's a combination football, baseball field. And it would be strictly it'd be a strictly baseball field, not a dual use surface.
Okay, thank you.
What we have right now is, every year we have to move the fences and the bleachers and stuff.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so it makes holes in the field, it's not real safe. We can't keep the field up adequately for either sport properly. So we would have a full-time baseball field over there, and then the football field would be in this new complex.
I want to ask some more questions. I'd like to give my board members a chance to make any statements about anything that we've talked about so far. Do you guys have anything you'd like to say?
Okay, the one thing that you missed on when you were talking about the facilities at the softball field and the track. One thing, the softball field is not handicap accessible, as you would know.
Yeah. I've been down the hill backwards.
You've been down the hill backwards, I know. No bathrooms.
No bathrooms.
I mean, we're using porta potties, which kind of tacky when you're hosting, you know, home games. So that's just some of the things. I've gotten to travel, you know, coaching. So you go to other facilities and you see what other teams have, and some of them are just like, whoa, there's no way we're going to do this. I mean, it's just crazy what they put into this stuff. But boy, there's some places you go and you go, well, why can't we have something just like this? You know, this is kind of nice. And I think that would be huge for a statement for our district.
Yeah.
And when you do with open enrollment, when you got kids that are looking, you know, or families that are looking to open enroll, and they come to check you out, and what do they see? And what does that say? Well, you know,
they can't run on the track, they can't do this.
Right.
And that's such a good point, Pat. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how I felt about going to other schools, and smaller schools such as ours. And I'll speak personally. I went over to Freedom, Wisconsin to watch somebody's daughter run a race. And I got to see a facility that was a fantastic facility. And Freedom is a small school. They're in a different kind of area. But that told me something about how they value their students and what their school, it was a school image. And it's something that I think is a sense of pride. And something that not only we as adults, parents, community members can be proud of, but our students can be proud of playing on there. Is that, Pat, kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
yes.
Anything else, guys, before I really want some more questions. But.
Two things. Make sure that you fill out the survey, because we as a board have to decide what question we can ask the taxpayers. So if we get a bunch of surveys that say we'll absolutely support this, but in no way support this, well, we're not going to ask what you're not going to support. So those surveys are very important to us, and we have to, make that decision in December. The other one, and nobody touched on it here, which I'm surprised, but in the community I've heard is they see this AstroTurf field, and everybody's, a lot of people are asking, well, do we need turf? Well, if you sat here and talked with football coach, and to your question,
the maintenance of it.
The maintenance on an AstroTurf field is essentially we could be out there 24 hours a day for Phi Ed class, for soccer, for football, and we're not going to be. We can use it for 20 years. There's not going to be, filling holes at baseball season, and so, there's a cost effectiveness there. So, don't get scared by the AstroTurf. That's not something that we just, pull down in thin air. There's a reasoning behind something.
Cody, you had brought up at one of our meetings the percentage of students that participate in sports. Maybe you want to share that?
Yeah. So essentially, this is for the kids. 20 years from now, these students could be taking care of us, whether they're doctors, EMTs, officers. If more than 50% of our students are athletes, that means that with their athletics, grades will go up because we have those regulations in place. But, being a part of the community, so many of our community members attend track, football, those events. So not only does it boost the morale for our students and their grades and the athletics, but also helps out the community too. So a lot of the students come here for athletics, but if we don't have a usable track, we're losing those students' potential grades and potential kids to grow up to help us with their health care and stuff like that. So.
I'll openly admit that my kid is in Lincoln right now because sports solely. So a good athlete makes a good student, and if you don't have high school athletics, you might as well start figuring out when you're going to shut the lights off, as far as I'm concerned. Because your numbers are going to go down because kids will leave the district to go play somewhere else.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike, I want to, you've been a strong supporter, attended the meetings. You really have a good, firm understanding of where we are on this, and so I really appreciate that. What are your thoughts with regards to the operational referendum?
So here are some questions that could prompt your thinking, or you can ask more questions.
About that for operational, I was curious as to what you thought. One of the questions, and I think if it did not pass, thoughts about consolidating buildings, and then if it does not pass, what are your thoughts and what does that look like?
It scares the heck out of me.
I agree.
That's all I can't say. I can't, the history we have here with our district, with our buildings, and the pride that we have in our buildings, it'd be awful hard to see one shut down. We have 3 quality buildings, 3 buildings that we just went through a large efficiency project 6 years ago, Lynn?
Yeah, around there.
And these buildings are good for a lot of years. We have some roofing concerns, some different things of that nature, but these buildings are good, solid buildings, and it'd be a shame to shut one of them down.
And we put that information out there because we don't know, we need to hear from you what options we should consider.
Yeah.
So we put out several options. So none of those are we advocating for.
Correct.
But we just wanted to get input.
So if the referendum does not pass for the operational expenses, then are you deciding as a board? Are we deciding as a community? What happens then? What you're taking away?
The feedback you're giving in the survey will help the board make those decisions too. And I'm sure we'll have other sessions.
There would have to be additional sessions, but that survey, we had them rank those areas, and that's definitely going to be considered. A survey is just only as good as the information that's in there and the people that fill it out. Not everybody's going to fill them out. For those of you that are here tonight that did not get a survey or need a survey, we have them up here and can provide you one, okay? They have unique codes on them, so it's important that You get either the email that you got, the written one you got, or you can pick one up from us, okay? Another question, I got.
Amy, did you get your
Mr.
question
Johnson?
answered?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have answers yet, so yes, you're gonna have more
So have you started that
chances.
discussion though, like?
I am
what-
I'm an optimist.
Well, I mean, I
want
agree,
people
but-
to spend $4 a year.
That's as far as we've gotten right there.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that your question was if it doesn't pass, what does, take input from the community? Well, if it doesn't pass, I think the community already gave their input that they don't want it to pass. You know what I'm saying?
What are you gonna do then? If you're putting all these options out,
Right.
closing staff, closing
Yeah.
the Nekoosa Academy, consolidating schools, how, I can't even understand how you would do that in the first place.
Right, yeah.
Right, and so who is gonna make that decision?
That's gonna be very complex decisions that we aren't even prepared to talk about at this time. We can't. We don't have plans for that. We gave options.
Yeah.
But if we
shouldn't
don't
that
have the
be-
money, to pay for the services we need, we have to cut costs. And either that's we can't let any more teachers go. We've tightened that belt way too tight. And the only way to do it is turn some of these light bulbs off and save some money and get more people in a building. That's one option. Hopefully it doesn't have to
You have a
happen.
chance to weigh in.
But yeah, we'd have much more of a chance. But good point, Mr. Shirk.
Have you looked into the possibility of co-oping with like Port Edwards or Wisconsin Rapids for like the CWSA? So we could share the cost between two schools,
Sure.
two districts, two tax bases.
They're absolutely invited to open enroll at CWSA, and that was our hope.
Well, not open and roll over, I mean, exist together, where our students go with their students and they get the same teacher. We don't take their students.
Talk to me more about that.
We did that up at, between Three Lakes and Phelps, because we had co-ops.
Share more on that.
Yeah, that could be a consideration. Other thoughts on operational? Yes, Mr. Dosley.
Suppose the operational referendum passes.
Yes, sir.
What do we do in 5 years? Come back and do this again?
Where state aid is gone with our new governor, there was an increase in per pupil aid. We always pray the revenue formula will change. It's probably never going to.
Can't count on that. 5 years from now,
Right.
you've taken and spent all this money, hired 3 or 4 new teachers and
Yep.
things like this. Now do those teachers get let go? If we don't get it?
I hope we don't have to do that. We may be coming back to our taxpayers for another operational referendum.
That's what a lot of other districts are doing.
May be coming back? No, you will be coming back.
Most likely.
Because that's
yeah.
what other districts have done around the state, is they go on a continual operating referendum
We
because
may
the
find
state
other
refuses to fund
other
it.
efficiencies, we may find other co-ops, we may find other things that can help our
But I
district.
think you need to
in
make
5
that
years.
known to the taxpayers that, we're asking this for 5 years, it's non-renewal at that point, but likely,
And it may be at a
if it's
reduced.
successful,
It
and
may
you
be at a
have the data
reduced.
to show that, then
Right.
people would
Yeah.
support it again at
Right.
that point, but.
And it may be a reduced
You need
number.
to see that.
If the 2 million
Or
gets
it
us
might
to
be
where
an
we go.
increased number.
You never know what Governor Walker's doing with funding, and we
Not
just
Walker
can't predict.
anymore, Evers.
Excuse me, Evers, we can't predict the future, but John, a good point.
Yeah.
Those districts that have gone to the well have had to go back.
So really, basically, there are some districts that have done like 5-year referendums, and now they're doing a reoccurring, so it just keeps going. We didn't want to do that here. We really do want to work hard at trying to find other alternatives versus, going to the taxpayers. So, but yeah, the data would show that districts are going back.
Right. So good point. Thank you, and that's something that, maybe we should.
That's a good point for us to share.
We should let people know more about that. And, if the survey says we're gonna do the operational, that's something the board decides in December. As we move through January, February, March, and April, when we're out there talking to Saratoga, Rome, different townships, we need to let them know that.
That's a good point.
Can you catch that, Diana? Right, recurring. Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
So we are 5 guys that are representing you, and this survey is really important for us to know what your thoughts are for us, because in order for us to move forward with a referendum, we have to know if it's going to pass. And if you guys don't tell us that you're in favor of it, we're not going to go for a referendum that we know we're going to fail with. So we need that information. If you haven't done the survey yet, do it and get it turned in so that we can make quality decisions on what we're gonna do.
So I know that the operational tax increase would last 5 years.
Yes.
How about the capital improvements? Is that 5 years? Is that
It's
10 years?
right there,
2
the
years?
bonds would be 10 years, and so that debt would be there for 10 years and then fall off.
So it'd be on the tax rolls for 10 years.
Tax roll for 10 years and then fall off, yes.
Okay. As a guy who voted on the evaluation against capital improvements, here are my concerns. I'm looking at our population's getting older, they're retiring, they're moving away, because there's a lot of houses out there for sale, rent. And I don't know what it is down in Rome as far as sales, rents, whatever. But the big thing that turned me off to the capital improvement was, yeah, the cost. But the soccer program, it's not getting bigger. You got a co-opt between boys and girls for a soccer team where they used to stand independently by themselves. And I know that because I've heard.
That's not true. That's not true.
Our soccer program
We had
is
22
strongest.
kids on the soccer
We
team.
got-
So they were lying to me.
Somebody lied to you.
Somebody
You need to
lied.
talk, get your data.
And it's not just license, it goes to the.
That's one of those questions I'd like to entertain at a later time. What I'd like to do, guys, I've gone over my time limit. It's 7:08. I would like to thank everybody for being here. For those that are willing to stay, we're here as long as you want us, right? But I want to give those of you that have the information you need an opportunity.
That are overheating.
That are overheating. But, you know, this is by far not the only meeting we're gonna have. If we're gonna take the information from the survey, we're gonna be forced to make a decision in December to be within the time limits. But as we move forward from December through next April, that's when we're gonna be out there doing more meetings, we're gonna be doing more informational. But for those of you that have additional questions, please stay here. But I can't thank you guys enough for being here tonight. If you have suggestions on what we can do better, as far as the information we have, John, I like your idea about letting people know about that 5 years.
Well, and we're gonna be developing an FAQ.
Yeah.
Question
There will
and
be
answer, so that.
FAQs coming out. If you have questions that you didn't ask tonight, don't get a hold of Diana, right? Is that okay? Diana or Terry? I just elected her. And, you know, there's people that I value very much in this room. There's many people in here that I consider very good friends. Mr. Anton, I know that you're probably gonna give me some advice on what we can do differently, which I really appreciate. And Mr. Joslin, I certainly welcome that as well. And anybody else, and the board members here, we're here to represent you. And, you know, each and every one of the board members here have different spheres of influence. Brian works with a group, Pat works with a group, Cody works with a group, Dave, your people, but we're trying to come together and we want to all have that same vision. And not only from the capital improvement perspective, but the operational perspective. And we want transparency and sustainability. Yes, Mrs.
Well, I was just gonna say, if this referendum does not come to fruition, or if it does not pass, more houses will go up for sale.
I'm one.
People will, yes,
I'm gone.
people will, we want to make our district as attractive as possible. Because people do come and they move to the area and they shop. And we want people to desire to move to Nekoosa. So the only way that we can do it is to make our school district be what we need it to be.
And you said it, Mrs. Sprain, and I want to thank you for that because, and I, you know, when talking with different people about how to do this, and one of the things was, Brian, let your emotions show through. And my emotions are my pride about the school district, about wanting more children here, are so strong. My pride about my nieces attending school here, my attending a school here, and for their kids to be attending school here. That's what I want people to feel, that pride. And I know Nekoosa has those kind of people. It has pride in their schools and wants the best for their students, wants the best for their teachers, and wants the best for their student athletes. I know we have that pride in this town. And, you know, for the dollars, you know, $27 a year for the whole shebang, $4 a year for the operational. I'd be paying another $100 and some for 10 years. I'm willing to spend that, and I don't have a lot of money, you know, but I'd be willing to spend that. Yes, sir.
I just want to put a thought in some people's head. I mean, we're going into a time of year where you think about what you're going to spend buying Christmas presents for your grandchildren or your kids or birthday presents throughout the year. That's investing in their future. This is no different.
Well, education is the #1.
Exactly, but
It's
I'm saying
important.
if you're looking at this from a dollar standpoint, think about what you throw away on a toy that they're going to play with for 10 minutes and never touch again.
And these class sizes cannot get any larger. These teachers cannot handle it. It is ridiculous when one teacher has 20 students. My child is not going to get the education she deserves. You are failing them. You are failing these teachers. No teacher is going to stay in this district and keep teaching at that ratio. I am a nurse. The more patients you keep adding to me, I will leave that facility. I'm not going to put my license on the line, just like these teachers. They're not going to put all their hard work that they put into their education to be a failure as well.
And I think, you know, that's such a good point. And, you know, we're at a point in time where we as a district will define ourselves based upon the decisions that are made from this process. This will define our district and our town, our community. And that's one thing that when we talk about education, it is a community issue, and I want to really thank the city council members. We've worked together closely on a number of things, and Chief Woods and our police department has, you know, the work that we do together in our community to help our students and bring families together and reach out to those families that need it. You know, we got to take care of our neighbors, we got to take care of our schools, we got to take care of our teachers.
This is a relatively small group of people from our community to hear tonight, and so we would encourage you to share what you've learned tonight with friends and neighbors, and encourage them to do the survey so that we get a bigger amount of people telling us what they want to happen in our community. So we encourage you to share this information with other people.
Question over here.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know, you had talked earlier about the track making money when it was operational.
Yes.
Were those funds used to maintain the track then, or were they used for other funding, you know, not related to athletics?
You know, I really can't speak to that. That funding, those sales go into the association, am I correct, Lynn?
I'm not sure.
Concessions and stuff usually they go to the Nekoosa Athletic Association.
But I guess I'm asking that question to ask, obviously, more for what the plan would be with the new one. Say that does happen, and it's a revenue stream. I mean, they're made, as you claimed, that it was making money then.
Yep.
But it fell apart, you know, and that money could have been used to fix it then.
You couldn't fix it.
You couldn't fix it.
Actually, the track was recoded. I think it was what, 5, 6 years?
No,
I was wondering how long
it
it
was.
was
The
back.
track was recoded, and the problem is the substructure of the track is inadequate now, and the only way you're going to fix it is to
But I mean, over the years of operation, was there enough money,
There-
that it made enough money to even replace the track if needed at that
That's
point?
another question I think we're gonna have to
Obviously.
There wasn't enough advocacy for that. I think that's a fair statement to make, and that we did not invest in that. And, you know, right or wrong, I hope we can do a better job of keeping the resources that we have. I know that we as a board are committed to that, and, you know, it was brought out tonight. We're not gonna try to build something we can't afford to maintain. Okay, guys, for those that wanna stick around.
Dollars. I mean, concessions, you know, apparel, stuff like that.
Hundreds of dollars.
No, not, you know, like 1.8 million.
It's like 8,000, but that's a lot. I mean, I think some of their best years, they brought in 8,000, 9,000, but it did go back, it's the association, and you don't want our associations having to do all the infrastructure. I mean, that's been our mind, I mean, that pays for, you know, the
Pays for
necessities.
uniforms,
Yeah.
busing to events, that's what the
Travel.
association pays for. It's, because it's costly to send these kids to the other schools and play, and the association helps fund, I think, right, Sean?
Yep.
But think
I
about
think
it, you're
something about
holding the
that.
track
That's what I-
meets here, people from other communities are going to drive here.
Absolutely.
And spend money on your businesses.
Walmart
Yes,
or the
you're right.
And then plus, more people will be more willing to probably bring their kids here, there's,
Great.
Absolutely.
see what you have available.
I remember when it was uncoded too, it bubbled over.
And the numbers that he's talking about raised through the high school, that doesn't include, I don't believe, what the youth athletics makes off of hosting things as well, because youth athletics is a separate identity here, and we have to support our own things. So we also have to pay for the referees, we have to pay for the busing, we have to pay for the kids to participate in tournaments and all that stuff, and anytime we can host something at home, it generates more money for our kids to then go and do more or have nicer uniforms.
We got kids in middle school that are quitting sports because they know they're not gonna play in high school because we don't have facilities, is that correct, Mike? Okay, I certainly appreciate
surveys
everybody's
out here
time.
if you didn't.
And feel free to stick around. People need surveys, come on up. I appreciate any feedback.